Hey guys, and welcome to a very special episode of Laid Bare Podcast. It's a special episode because I am joined by the amazing and talented writer, activist, and actor extraordinaire, Gillian Anderson.
Hello, Oloni.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Oh, I appreciate it. We're here to talk about your new book that is coming out. In fact, it's out now. It's out now.
Yeah.
Once.
Yes.
How are you feeling about it?
I feel all right. It's
Yeah?
been intense. It's been an intense few days of press and talking non-stop. But I've had some absolutely fantastic conversations with women around it, and particularly women around it. And everybody seems very excited, so it makes me excited.
I've read it, and do you know what I love about it the most is the fact that there's a bit inside it where you basically share your experience, but nobody knows.
Yes.
Nobody knows.
Yes. Which letter is mine?
Which letter is yours?
mine?
Which fantasy is yours?
I'm not going to tell you.
I really thought that I would try and poke and ask.
Everybody is trying to figure it out.
Really?
It's not going to happen.
Has anyone figured it out?
No, and the problem is because I'm such a bad liar that if somebody asks me to my face, and it is actually no, I am actually. My kids are constantly telling me what a bad liar I am.
Yeah.
But they are. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to. I'd say no. That's no.
Now, you mentioned that, your book is kind of like inspired by Nancy Friday, The Secret Garden.
Mm-hmm.
What else inspired one?
The idea for it initially came from my literary agent, who was very familiar with the book, still had her mother's copy from 1973. We put the call out to anyone who identifies as a woman. That includes trans community and anyone identifying as non-binary. The thought of that range was what was inspiring to me.
Yeah.
The thought that potentially everyone would feel safe to write in.
And I love how inclusive it is as well, because you do have like stories from the trans community, from people in the trans community, and you have stories from, you're just everyday girl, but they're fantasies that people probably wouldn't expect. You could be sitting next to someone on the train and not knowing that they have this secret kink.
And might even be thinking about it right then in that moment.
And I always say the people with the most interesting kinks are the ones who are literally on your way to work with you in the morning.
Probably.
And it's true, like sometimes, you might also find your most vanilla person as well.
Yeah, but also, as you well know, that one person's vanilla
is someone else's, kink as well. And I always say, don't yuck my yum as well. So whatever is like really kinky to you, like don't yuck it, just understand that we're all different. We all have different tastes as well. Like it's just like food. We all have, just different tastes and needs. Now, I wanted to know as well, if you just go back, what was your sex education like growing up?
I don't even know if I had sex education. I mean, I must have. I moved from school in the UK to school in the States. Yeah. And I don't remember actually sitting in a classroom and anybody even taking out a textbook and pointing at organs. You know what I mean?
So it was nothing?
I'm not sure whether there really was. I think I learned myself very quickly when I moved to America, and all of a sudden I noticed initially boys for the first time, and became very active as a young teen in trying to figure out what that all meant. And I don't feel like I had any sex education.
It's interesting because you say you had no sex education, but then obviously on screen, we're watching you as this powerful, I don't even want to say you're dominant, but at the same time you are. It's like you're clearly empowered through sexuality because you're playing a sex therapist as well. But I've met sex therapists, and sometimes it's just like, it looks like a job. But then the way you take on the character is that, you're allowing women to also feel empowered through their sexuality. Because you don't really see that woman talking about sex on TV, whether that's, non-fiction or whether that's, they're just doing it for, they're doing it as a role. We don't see that a lot. But what makes you feel empowered sexually?
It's interesting that you say that, because I feel like there's something about the way that Jean Milburn, the character, can hear anybody, can engage on that topic, on the topic of sex or anything sex adjacent, with absolutely anybody in a completely non-judgmental, open, compassionate way. And I almost feel like when we put the call out for women to write to me, that I held that space for them to be able to write in, which is a fantastic kind of platform and space environment to be able to receive these letters. And I feel like women were particularly open because of Jean, even though They don't know.
Yeah.
You know, that is just a character.
It's part of the brand.
So
I think it's part of the brand. I feel like, you know, even though it is a character, I still see you as someone, I don't know, maybe you were just so convincing. I don't know. But I was just like, I still see this person. I'm just like, oh my gosh, she makes me feel even more sexually empowered. And I like that as well.
That's
yeah.
cool.
Yeah. But with the stories that were sent in, was there anything that stood out to you? Like, obviously you can't give away the whole book, but was there any story where you were just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe, like, I've never heard of this before.
There were a lot of things that I'd never heard of. I'm not easily shocked. I didn't know that there was people had a proclivity to be turned on by full bladders, for instance. I wasn't familiar with that. Or cows, that was new to me. Being milked. Yeah, there were a few things. There's so many delightful stories. There's a woman talking about fantasizing about Bigfoot, there's alien tentacles, and then there's your usual anal plugs and you know, all of that. So there's a wide range of desires in there from a very wide range of women.
Yeah. And do you have a favorite story where you're like, okay, this is the one I know I definitely have to include because, I don't know, maybe it made you laugh, it made you giggle, maybe one that was on your mind for a really long time?
There are a few that I find incredibly moving.
Yeah.
You know, there's some that are very sad. I like hearing from women who, you know, very ambitious and are, you know, captains of their universes and basically make all the decisions in their lives and in their homes. There's one woman in particular who then just wants to be done for at the end of the day, doesn't want to make any more decisions. There's another woman who writes about wishing that she could live 3 different lives at once. One with a, you know, husband and with kids, and one being in a sexual relationship with a woman, and another being in a sexual relationship with a young hot man. And wishing that those 3 things could actually exist simultaneously. That sounds pretty good. There's something for everyone.
Absolutely. And I feel like when it comes to fantasies and you're asking people to send in their story, these are anonymous stories that probably their friends, maybe their partners don't even know about. What would you say if you were to give advice and say, you know, you should probably talk to your partner about this? It's a fantasy and, you know, not everything should be explored. Why not? If you do want to try it, you know, why not? What advice would you give for those women who want to explore those fantasies?
Well, one of the things that I was most surprised by in the book, that even in, you know, 2024, there is still so much shame around fantasy.
Speak on it, please. Speak on it.
And women's pleasure particularly, you know, a lot of the, you know, sex we have seen historically, and certainly sex in the multi-billion-dollar porn industry is very geared towards men's pleasure and not women's pleasure. And so this book is very much a testament to women and what women want and need in bed. So obviously it's one's own choice whether you want to share what your fantasy is, and it's your prerogative. I would say start with writing it down, that there are ways, you know, to explore almost in creative writing to get used to having it out there outside of yourself, and if it still feels comfortable to then share and talk about maybe just even one aspect of it. I think there's a lot of shame too, women afraid that they'll be judged or their partners will ridicule them or think that that means that they want to be with other people, or that they are not doing it good enough, or whatever the fears are around sharing it.
And again, there's so many experiences in your book that I feel like if you are someone who is reading one, this could be something whereby, I don't know, maybe you read it with your partner and you say, hey, check out this page. What do you think about it? Maybe we could explore this. Maybe we could try this. Or just to, I think, test the water as well. Because I feel like sometimes when it comes to fantasies, you don't want to like scare people with your kinks. So you might just want to like, I don't know, get a feel to see if they'd be open to it as well. And I think that's also what's important, because, you know, when you're sharing your kinks and you're sharing your fantasies, you might not always be sexually compatible on this. Do you know what I mean? Your partner might be into whips and chains and you're just like, hold on, please, like, that's not really my style. But I think that if someone was to read your book and they did see the stories that are sent in, this could be, you know, a topic of conversation and just something whereby, who knows, the next sexual experience might be even more interesting because you've communicated. We've used your book, we've read it, And it sounds weird when you say use your book.
Sorry. You know what I mean anyway. But yeah, or you could use it. I don't know. It could be like part of dirty talk. You never know. But I want to know, when it comes to, you know, obviously I feel like you've gone on like another sexual education, like roller coaster, because you're compiling these stories, you're reading them. Was there anything new that you also learned about sex? Because obviously we know, yes, you play the character, and there was so much in sex education that, you know, a lot of young women and boys, non-binary, did not know about sex. For example, like vaginismus. There was, you know, I remember when you guys had that amazing episode, it became a topic of discussion because a lot of women or people with vaginas could identify and say, oh my gosh, this is what I'm experiencing. So for you, when you were putting Want together, was there any new experiences or new kinks that you were just like, wow, I did not know that this existed?
Yeah, I mean, I think, as I said, the
milking,
full food, you know, the milking. Yeah. There is somebody talking about really being obsessed with hairy armpits, and apparently that is a thing. And a woman who's very active with a doorknob at work.
Wait. We need to go back. When you say very active, what do you mean?
Well, just, you know, goes to visit the doorknob at work because uses a doorknob at work to pleasure herself.
Yeah. Wow, that is interesting.
It's all interesting. Yeah. And it's all okay.
Exactly.
You know, everything that is in this book is, you know, but what was the term that you said? I love that so much. Like, don't yuck
my yum. Don't yuck my yum. And it's true because there's so many things that I hear that, even though I like to feel like I'm sexually progressive, I'm still like, that's a bit too much, you know? But it's, you have to like really unlearn certain things when it comes. Is there anything you feel like unlearning? Is there anything you felt like you had to unlearn when it came to sex?
Oh, definitely.
I'm trying to think about what I unlearned when it came to sex as well. Mine, I would say PIV sex. That PIV is not the be and all end. I said this in another interview that I did, and I think it was more that I feel like cis hetero couples are, I don't know, I feel like our destiny is just tied to how a penis enters a vagina, and that's it. We don't really pay attention to the foreplay, the kissing, the talking, the pausing as well. Because when I grew up, I just thought that sex was just all about a penis going in and out.
And getting to the end.
And getting to the end and believing that sex was over when he arrived.
Yes.
And I was also imitating what I saw in porn.
Sure.
Sorry, I like that you said sure.
No,
but
exactly. That's all a lot of people know, and particularly, you know, youth of today. That is the education for them today, is porn, and however that presents itself. And that's really unfortunate. And I think, you know, this book obviously is an antidote to that in a way, because there are so many varied versions of how sex can manifest in the book. It's been a very interesting journey. I've never talked about sex so much in my life.
Really?
I'm not an expert.
Yeah, of course. I know.
But it is interesting to go on this journey, and I've had some really fascinating and very empowering conversations with women along the way. But it is, you know, men are also picking up the book, as you said. Men are, I've had a couple of men share that they are, you know, interested in giving it to their daughters to counteract the toxic masculinity that's out there.
Good.
And also to, you know, sons and
and I think that's really important as well, because again, as you mentioned before, when we think about sex, we're talking, you know, the people who lead are usually the men who are making millions or billions from it. But we're not talking about the other aspect. Of course, you said you're not an expert. But you must get people who walk up to you and ask you questions about sex.
No.
You don't?
Never.
Really?
Never.
Is that because you're just around with security and no one has that access to you?
Really not. I really never have people ask me. Yeah, never do. It's very interesting.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm shocked, because I'm thinking, because I don't know, I just assume that like people must go up to you. You know how like you just see a character on TV sometimes and you have like someone who's probably played a bad person. So I've heard stories of people like going up to celebrities and yelling at them. And it's just like they're playing a character that's not them.
No, that doesn't happen. I'm equally surprised.
Yeah, really?
It's only ever happened once, and they were drunk. And
Can I ask what they said? Can I ask what they asked?
I think they were talking about their kid. The advice that they were trying to give their kid about masturbating. I think they wanted to have that conversation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What advice did you give?
I think I might have walked away. It was just a lot of
a lot going on.
and alcohol.
Yeah.
And he wasn't going to remember it anyway. The next day.
There's
So
no
I didn't
point.
remember. But that's the only time.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the only time it happened. But I just to reiterate again, there's a lot of tenderness in this book, and just even having the conversation about women and pleasure.
Yeah.
And you know, embracing the fact that it's okay to ask for pleasure or to be pleasured, whether
Absolutely.
it's in sex or in life. And it's still such a taboo to talk about it. It's almost like pleasure is a dirty word.
It really, to many people, it really does feel like it is a dirty word, because I think when people hear sex, they only hear pleasure and desire, and it's just like, yes, there's pleasure and desire, but there could also be education around it as well.
Yeah.
And education might not necessarily be anatomy or biology, but education could be like what is written inside one, where people are sharing their kinks, their fantasies, what they desire. And I think there's beautiful education in that as well. But I really do think as though that, as you mentioned yourself, when it comes to women and female sexuality, it is a taboo subject because we're seen not to, sex isn't for us. Like society told us that sex is not for us.
Yeah.
And the fact that
we're there to serve us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And we're supposed to be these submissive people, but in your book, you've got people who are talking about wanting to be dominant in the bedroom.
Yeah.
So I guess my next question is, you know, why did you decide to, you know, do this for women especially?
That's my experience as a woman. It also feels like there hasn't been this for women since the 70s. I was curious about whether anything had changed between the 70s and today. And also because so much of the, you know, sex industry is geared towards men and not about what, at the end of the day, necessarily what women actually want out of sex. And so, I was curious whether anything had changed or the degree to which things had changed since then. So that's probably my primary motivation for doing it.
You said that you never really had sex education when you were younger. What would you tell, you know, a younger version of you about sex if you could go back? Like, what would you quickly whisper to yourself? If you had like 2 minutes, what would you say?
Honestly, just because they want to have sex with you doesn't mean you should have sex with them.
Yeah. No, it's true.
Yeah.
But some people see that as like...
You could actually stop right now and go, ew, no.
I like that you said that, because people don't believe that they can stop.
Yeah.
Like, you can be fully naked. The wind could blow a different way.
Yeah.
You could decide for whatever reason that you do not want to continue with that as well. Cool. And I think that
Consent.
Exactly. Consent is really, really important. I say it's sexy, but above all, it's mandatory. But I think communication is mandatory, and of course it can be sexy. But, you know, if we're just talking about wanting to stop what's going on, like, honestly, guys, you do not need to like continue. If there's something, if you just feel a certain way, you can honestly just stop. Do you have any opinions on sex that, I know obviously like we want to be progressive and we want to be forward thinking when it comes to sex, but are there any opinions you have where you're just like, I still don't know how I feel about that? So for example, mine is one night stands. I tell obviously women, like, do what makes you happy, do what's healthy, make sure a friend knows where you are, etc., etc. But then at the back of my head, I'm still like, I don't know if that's a great idea. So do you have any opinions on sex that you're just like, I'm not sure? Like, yes, I'm all for sex and champion women and empowering them, but this is a thought that I still do feel about sex.
I would agree with you in the way that I think that that's not necessarily taken into consideration in the one night stand community.
Yeah.
You know, just because somebody has landed on your page and said, you know, I want, does not mean necessarily that you want or have to want.
That was beautiful. I just love literally.
What?
Yeah,
yes.
She didn't even know. I was just like, do you know what you just did there? That was beautiful. But you know what? I want to thank you so much for spending time with me and just talking about your book. Like, I feel so inspired. I'm going to go have amazing sex right after this because I have just spoken to
the Gillian Anderson. Thank you so much. We've got G-Spot as well over here.
Yeah.
Name is so fitting. If you were to describe G-Spot for us, how would you describe? Because I've never had one, so I'm grateful.
There are 4 flavors.
Okay.
And that particular flavor is normally wrapped in a purple can because it's actually got something called butterfly pea in it, which is what makes it purple on the inside.
Okay.
Which also it's technical.
Did you say sorry, rewind. Did you say butterfly pea?
I said butterfly pea, but the actual clinical, technical, scientific name for butterfly pea actually has the word clit in it.
Okay.
Yeah, but anyway, it does actually have an impact on blood vessels, etc., and sends blood to helpful areas of the body. So it is actually arousing. That is one of 4 flavors, but they are functional drinks, low calorie, natural soft drinks.
Oh, do you hear that, guys?
Good elements for you. That particular one is passion fruit.
All I heard was low calorie. I heard low calorie.
They're very tasty. It almost tastes like a Bellini.
Ooh.
But they're non-alcoholic, functional soft drink.
Well, I'm going to go try this anyway.
Try that before your good sex this afternoon.
Yes, I will. Thank you so much for spending time with me and talking about your book. Honestly, I feel really honored. I know you keep saying that it's just a role that you play, but honestly, like without that role, it would be so hard to like, I guess tell my own parents, like that's what I want to be, like a sex therapist. So thank you so much for this book. And when can we get a copy?
Now. It's out now. Yeah.
You've heard it first, out now. Make sure you get one by Gillian Anderson. But yes, guys, make sure you share, like, reshare, whatever it is you want to do, and tag me. But thank you so much for listening and watching as well. I'll be back with another episode of Laid Bare. Signing out. Bye, guys.